Okay, welcome everybody. My name, of course, is Trish Garner. I'm the AEW of Oregon State Diversity Chair. My goals with our We Disagree Now What series are twofold. One is to examine why going from disagreement to agreement is such a challenge. The second is to offer concrete suggestions about how we can navigate the challenges. So I'll be speaking for about 15 minutes or so, and then I'll turn it over to Sophia Solano and Wemimo Ayanubi, also known as Wemi, and I will introduce them at that time. So to begin, I cannot stress enough that understanding how our brains work or don't work is the key to putting us on the path to resolution. It is not necessarily them or why they are wrong that's the problem. It's us, all we human beings. Unfortunately, our brains are labyrinthine in makeup, where a cognitive asset often turns into an impediment, and particularly including how we formulate and retain opinions, which come with some very sticky super glue indeed. And last time, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but last time we heard about one barrier, which is about how our brains download information when we hear an opinion different from our own. Rather than accessing the rational logic part of our brain, it's our emotional feeling parts that are triggered when we receive an opinion that we disagree with. Hope you like the graphics. Next. So our reaction has a tendency to be like this. I'm not going to describe it. If you don't get it, I don't know. So I think next, all right. Once we develop a point of view or a perspective about something, it is wired into our very identity. A challenge to our point of view is a challenge and can feel like a challenge to our identity. But there's more to the story. Another fundamentally important hurdle to reaching resolution is something called confirmation bias. It is a biggie. I have titled it here, My Side Bias. It's essentially that we are really good, really adept at spotting the weaknesses about point of view or what someone is saying, a perspective about something. The weakness is on the other side, but we're more or less oblivious about our own. What downside or weaknesses are in our own points of view. And when doubts do arise, what do? We double down. So I'm going to indulge in showing you, or Nancy showing you, a video. It's about 6 minutes. It's a YouTube video about confirmation bias. I think this is really important and probably kind of what we were talking about, earlier. So here we go.
Hi everybody and welcome. My name is Luke and this is the Science Lens, where you can use science to improve your critical thinking skills. Today we're talking about confirmation bias. When I was young, I once heard somebody say that one of the great mysteries of the universe is why when you drop a piece of buttered toast, it'll always land with the buttered side facing down. And at the time, I just thought it was a funny observation. But then after a few years went by and I'd seen a few more pieces of toast hit the floor, I started to think to myself, is this actually a thing? But of course, it's not one of the great mysteries of the universe. In fact, it's barely a mystery at all. I had just fallen victim to confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is just giving more attention or credence to information that sort of reinforces something that you already believe in. And there are 4 ways that this can happen. The first is when we only remember facts that reinforce our beliefs. So going back to the buttered toast example, whenever I would drop the toast and it would land with the butter facing down, I'd have to go get paper towel, it'd make a big mess, and it took a while to clean it up. Whereas if I dropped it and it landed with the butter facing up, It was just a matter of sweeping up a few crumbs, and it didn't really bother me that much. Now, human beings are really good at forming memories around something that's had an emotional impact on them, even if that
Notion has been the centerpiece of my workflow. It's quite literally an extension of my
All right,
brain.
guys.
I can take
You know how it
notes.
is.
that emotion is just mild annoyance. And so what I was doing was I was remembering those times that it fell face down more often than the times that it fell face up. Next, we can ignore information that contradicts our beliefs. So for me, maybe those times that I dropped a toast and it was facing butter side up, I thought to myself, that's just a fluke. That doesn't normally happen. And I would just forget about it. We can also fail to seek out objective information. So maybe if I decided that I wanted to go to the internet and get more information about this toast situation, I could choose to go to a website about data and statistics and probability, or I could go to www.thegreattoastconspiracy.com/theyrecomingforyou.blog. Now, one of those is going to give me objective information, the other one, not so much. Finally, I could misinterpret new information to fit with my currently held belief. So maybe if I did go to that website on statistics and probability and I found out that flipping a coin has a 50-50 chance of landing on heads or tails, I would think to myself, well, that's coins. That's completely different to toast. It's not the same thing at all. Another example that comes to my mind of somebody misinterpreting information to fit with a previously held belief is the movie Dumb and Dumber. Now, right at the end of that movie, Jim Carrey's character says to Lauren Holly's character, "What are the odds that the two of us are going to get together?" And she says, "I'd say about 1,000,000 to 1." And he says,
"So you're telling me there's a chance?" Yeah!
So he's clearly misinterpreted what she said to fit with the belief that he has that they're going to wind up together. So you can see that whether we're making breakfast, reading a news article, or even dating, confirmation bias is something we need to be aware of. But now that we are aware of it, how do we make sure we don't fall victim to it? The first step in overcoming any bias at all is just knowing that it exists, and knowing that anybody can experience it, including yourself, is half the battle won. Next, when you're thinking about something that you believe to be true, you should ask yourself, what if the opposite were true? What this will do is it'll prime your brain to start exploring options that you might not have considered before and seek out objective information that could challenge your beliefs. And finally, we need to collect some data. Now, this could be secondhand data that you get from the internet, or it can be your own data that you collect yourself. But whatever the source, you just need to make sure that the data is reliable and objective. So let's round out our discussion with another example from my life of when I fell victim to confirmation bias and how I overcame it. I have a dog named Charlie, and I love him to bits, but he has this one habit that drives me absolutely insane. When we go for walks and we're crossing the road, he seems to always decide that this is the perfect time for him to stop and shake out his fur. Now, at best, this is mildly frustrating. At worst, it's a little bit scary because sometimes there'll be a car coming and I really have to pull on the leash to get him out of the road in time. And I started to wonder, what is it about the middle of the road that makes Charlie want to stop and shake out his fur every single time? Of course, then I realized that I may have been experiencing confirmation bias. So the next time I took Charlie for a walk, this is what I did. I started one timer at the house to measure the overall length of the walk, and then I took another timer with me to measure how much time we spent on the road. Then I counted the number of times that Charlie shook his fur out on the footpath, and then the number of times that he shook his fur out on the road. And this is what I came up with. So you can see that when I calculate the ratio of shakes on the footpath versus shakes on the road, it's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close, and it's very strong evidence that I had been experiencing confirmation bias. Well, that's it for today's video, but if you'd like some resources to help reinforce the concepts that I covered today, I recommend that you check out my store on Teachers Pay Teachers. I have that linked in the description down below. There I've got a bunch of resources for learning critical thinking through science, including one for today's video. Also, if you enjoyed the video today, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're interested to see more videos on how you can use science to improve your critical thinking. And as a final note, I used a bunch of resources for today's video and I've linked them down below, so please check those out if you're interested to learn more about confirmation bias. For today though, that's it. Thank you for joining me.
Okay, I don't know, somehow I just thought that was that was pretty good. And confirmation bias is really important. Another common pitfall is something called attribution error. And it refers to our tendency to attribute another person's actions to their character or their personality, rather than the peculiar circumstances or facts of the event or conversation. And then not using the same barometer for ourselves. In other words, we tend to cut ourselves a break while holding others, 100% accountable for their actions or opinions. Here's an example. Someone's late. We conclude, oh, they're lazy, disorganized. But actually, there was a new highway construction project which made the trip last longer. And the other part of this is when you're late, there's a great reason for it. It's that highway project. So here's another example of a barrier. I'm going to give you a question. And actually, I think I was going to say we can answer it in the chat, but we can, raise hands and talk too. But I'm gonna ask you a question, and there's really just one answer or the other. And this is the question. Would you characterize our news coverage as mostly positive or mostly negative? So everybody who is going for negative, please raise your hand. All right. Everyone who thinks our news coverage is mostly positive, raise your hand. I don't think I saw anyone raise a positive. Chances are, and you have plenty of company, you go for negative. Now, that could be right. It's right because, the news is negative. But there's also something called negativity bias. How do you like that slide? Anyway, this is another one of those cognitive shortcuts that's hardwired into our brains, which is the tendency to respond more strongly to negative events or emotions than positive ones. Now, again, there's a good reason for this. Remembering and passing on information that the red berries are poisonous has more immediate repercussions for survival than knowing that the black ones are delicious. So we have a tendency, again, news may be negative, but we have a tendency to go for, the negative. Another challenge is our tendency to indulge in, and of course, I've never done this, automatic thinking. Automatic thinking is just that. It's a speedy jump from a stimulus to a conclusion. Like this process, and it, can be very helpful. How we walk, we don't have to think about taking steps every time. How to chew gum, and even how to walk and chew gum at the same time. How to tie shoelaces, how to steer a car. And I've got some examples. This is some automatic thinking. And this is an exercise for you. Now, what I want you to do, it's called the Stroop task. You can read to yourself, read column 1, read all the words, read column 2, and then read column 3. You read the words, but you say the color, like dog green, chair blue, boat purple, window green, block blue, fan red, column 2. Column 3, color the word. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I don't know if any of you, when you got to column 3, kind of did What was that? Red, purple, blue? What is that in the third column? Well, it's an example, kind of a cheat way, but it's an example of automatic thinking. But this notion is more than just making kind of a snap judgment or a instant brain thing. It's when we use a lot of should or ought or must statements, or even like, here's an example. When we hear so-and-so has been elected to political office, do we immediately vault into, I sure hope it's a Dem, or I sure hope it's an R? Come on now. Have we not done this? Automatic thinking is distinguished from intentional or critical thinking, which really calls for us to focus on what we are thinking, to slow down, reason, concentrate, reflect. Hard to do sometimes. And the red flag should be up when we quickly conclude that someone is wrong, or it's a fact, or it's obvious that. Instead, intentionally listen. Be curious. What assumptions am I bringing to the situation? Is there another way to see the issue? How clearly can I articulate my position? And how fairly and thoroughly can I state the other side? An important component to handling disagreement, to my mind, is to call on your empathy. Ask open-ended questions or sharing experiences. Watch nonverbals of your own, like, eye rolling, speaking harshly, I guess pounding the table. When all else fails, and a disagreement seems never-ending, intractable, with each participant entrenched in their position, think about this. What if we weren't trying to get others to look at how wrong they are, but why they are wrong and why I might be wrong? After you've intentionally listened, examined both sides or all sides, and been genuinely curious about why someone else takes a position or has a perspective different than you do, then, as I say, call on your empathy. Try to understand not just the words, but how that person feels, what that person's story is, where they come from, what lies outside of the different positions, and what other insights can you discover by taking a broader perspective. So that's my spiel. And we are going to launch into part 2, which I will, after introductions, place in the capable hands of Sophia Solano and Wemi Ayanubi. I apologize. Many of you met Sophia in our last session, but just a quick review. She is the Process and Logistics Coordinator for Conflict Artistry LLC, an organization funded by the Criminal Justice Commission to develop and implement restorative justice programming for criminal harms. Fascinating, eh? She's also the coalition coordinator for the Restorative Justice Coalition of Oregon, a really important coalition that I heartily recommend you take a look at the website. Anyway, Wemi is a community resource advocate with Sophia at Conflict Artistry. She also works as a case manager with Lane County's Emergence, Behavioral, and Addiction Therapies. Piece of cake task, easy, no problem. She's also a member of the Restorative Justice Coalition and a state certified mediator. I am delighted to have the guests that we have here, and I think they may do a little modeling of some good practices and some not so good practices, but on with the show. Take it away.
Thank you, Trish.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was waiting for you to take it on, but
Oh, okay. I'm happy to.
I was just gonna say thank you, Trish, and I'm happy to be here. I wouldn't be doing a lot of workshop piece, but Sophia and I would just do a role play to give examples of the workshop she gave last week.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to be back. And yeah, we focused on a couple of specific topics last week. Restorative justice. I talked about some values and principles, and nonviolent communication with 4 steps to slow down and work through conflict in a more intentional way. So yeah, we have put together a little role play today, and then we're going to open it up for comments and reflections so we can have open dialogue too about what seems to work, what seems to not work, and maybe build on what we talked about last month.
Okay, sweet. I can go ahead and read the introduction.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So this is the backstory for the role play we will be enacting. Wemi and Sophia are new roommates. They are not really friends and have different social circles. Wemi has serious allergies in the summer and has asked Sophia not to open the windows during certain times. Last week, Sophia opened the window and Wemi had to go to the doctor because of her allergies. When Wemi told Sophia what happened, she agreed not to open the window again. This week, Sophia invited several friends over and there was loud music, drinking, and other rowdy behavior in the shared apartment. The next day, the place was a mess and Sophia left without cleaning up. When Sophia came back to the apartment, Wemi had something to say. So this is the first version. It's the escalating version. We have 3 different versions to roleplay today. Okay. Wemi, furious with the from the mess in the apartment, immediately attacked Sophia once she walked through the door. Sophia, where have you been? Do you see the mess everywhere? You and your friends made this horrible mess and left it for who exactly to clean? This is unacceptable and I will be reporting to the house management. Your friends were acting like animals. You did not ask if you could bring your friends over, no permission whatsoever. You did not check in with me about my allergy incident from last week. And really, I can't believe this behavior.
It's really none of your business where I've been, and go ahead and report it. I haven't broken any rules and I live here too. You need to relax. I was planning to clean it up, but I just couldn't this morning. Me and my friends had a really good time. I'm sorry, you don't know how to party.
Wow, you are insufferable. I need to relax? You're in school to get an education, not party. You're spending all of your time partying and drinking, wasting your life away. While I'm here getting an education, relaxing is taking a walk, reading a book, not partying, Sophia.
Wow, who are you, my mom? You know nothing about me and are so judgmental. I don't think I did anything wrong. You are overreacting and being so aggressive.
Oh my goodness. Of course you would say that. I am a Black woman with strong opinions about your negative attitude. And of course, the label would be aggressive. Yeah, call me the angry Black woman.
Yeah. Everything is always about race.
End scene. Okay, that's the first role play act. And I would love to invite reflections, questions, or thoughts, if anyone has them, on this role play piece. Like I said, we have 2 more.
The first question we always ask in restorative justice is, what happened? Can anyone tell us what they saw?
Well, I'll start. This is Trish.
Yeah.
I guess, the way I would say, you went from 0 to 100, like at the get-go. And, you really touched on some interesting conflicts, and some genuine conflicts, or seemingly genuine conflicts. I think we recognize some of what you said, so I'll let someone else comment. Mary Pat, what do you think?
Well, yes, I agree. It went from 0 to 100, but also it was all ad hominem, I felt. It was all an attack on the person. It was not at all trying to tackle the issue at hand. So that's what I took away.
Great point.
Right.
Thank you.
I would just say that there was a lot of kind of labeling and accusation and value judgments occurring about the other person, and very few I statements.
Great. Great insight. Thank you. Anyone else?
I just want to say I love Sophia's body language. It fit with the scenario.
And our body language does do a lot to escalate or de-escalate conflict for sure.
Those eye rolls were great.
I am unfortunately an eye roller. I've been working on that, toning it down.
And this happened to me when I was 18, and I was much more annoyed than you, Winnie.
We imagine it would resonate because this is university women, so like, yeah. Okay. We can move on to the next one. Next role play.
Oh yeah, there was just one thing I was gonna say, Wemi, that I noticed when we were writing the script. One of the first things that you brought up in your very first kind of statement was really an attack, right? Like we planned, but you made this interesting point that I didn't check on you after the allergy incident, and that kind of surfaced in the midst of this conflict too. And I just noticed that, you know, that's an interesting point where you were trying to connect and even say like, suggest that maybe we should care about each other, you know, because we're living together in different ways. And I just blew right past that, right, and got defensive, and we escalated into attack mode. But yeah, that was like an interesting detail that stood out to me from that script.
Sweet, yes. Okay.
But that was kind of like a gunny sack, you know, that was something that she stored back, and she was so angry, she was just to throw that out at you in another thing.
True.
That was really off topic from what was going on, but she just had a lot of anger.
Yeah, she was holding on to that. And yeah, it's true. It appeared.
Absolutely. Lumping all together.
Postage stamps.
Can you say that again? Sorry.
A long time ago, we would refer to that. I don't think we say this much anymore, but saving postage stamps was a way of referring to that old stuff that, you know, sort of stuck and didn't get resolved.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. Yeah, totally.
I like the phrase. I'm going to keep it. I'm a collector of like those kind of phrases. Postage stamp. Okay. Thank you. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Scene 2, Act 2.
This is the de-escalating version. Same scenario. Wemi, furious from the mess in the apartment, immediately attacked Sophia once she walked through the door. Sophia, where have you been? Do you see the mess everywhere? You and your friends made this mess and left it for who exactly to clean? This is unacceptable, and I will be reporting this. Your friends are acting like animals. You did not ask for permission. You didn't check on me after the alleged allergy incident. I can't believe you.
Ugh, you are so right. This is a really huge mess, and even I was shocked when I woke up this morning. Please don't report me to management because it was really hard for me to get this place, and I cannot afford to get kicked out. I promise I will clean this up right away, and I did not mean for it to affect you. In the future, I can definitely let you know if I'm having friends over.
Ugh. Yeah, it's whatever. Let's just make sure this doesn't happen again. I really do not want to have to look for another roommate, honestly, or be awake all night because you're partying, really.
That makes sense. I am really sorry we were so loud. Things definitely got out of hand, and you do deserve to be in the loop since you live here. I'm embarrassed this happened, and I will make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, that's fine. Maybe we should make some rules or something about quiet hours, having friends over, leaving stuff in shared space, all of that. Let's just avoid stepping on each other's toes going forward.
I think that's a really good idea, and you can just let me know whenever it works for you. I'm happy to connect about that further.
Yeah, I'll see when it works for me and let you know.
And scene. Slightly different. Some things the same and a lot of things different. What happened?
Well, Remy was not very open to the apology. She had an attitude. She'd gotten the attitude at the party and she wasn't letting go. That's what I would say.
I think that, Sophia, you were over solicitous. I mean, I can't imagine anyone just immediately admitting, oh, I'm so sorry, mea culpa, I did all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. But it just seemed a little forced, a little unreal. For starters, I mean, I think as you got into it, it would make sense, but starting right with the first thing, it just didn't sound true to me.
I had an incident with a very good friend who got very angry at me about something, and I hadn't realized it, and I immediately apologized, and he didn't recognize it. I did very much like Sophia did, and he said, I wasn't expecting. I mean, this was all by email because he wasn't talking to me. He said, I wasn't expecting it. So, I gave a lot of credence to Sophia's response, and I thought to myself that I thought, she's trying to connect. She's trying to tell you that she is sorry, and it's like you're discounting what appears to be an honest response, and maybe I'm just naive, but it did sound honest to me, and I thought to myself, I would be a little more open to that. And say, well, all right, let's do try to work this out, and I do accept your apology and get going on cleaning it up. So
That's interesting. Thanks for bringing in that other perspective and relating it to your life too.
Yeah, and I think it was interesting too that the comment about your response, Sophia, being unreal. I don't think we imagined that while we were doing this. We had so much fun making this.
It's true.
Yeah, I didn't think about that piece, but some people, it could come off that way. Imagine.
Well, I think it's the way she started. If she had just said, oh, I am so sorry, it would, and then went on, it would have seemed a lot more real than immediately going into the whole scenario of what, the way she did it. I mean, I know what she was trying to do, and she made sure she got every little piece of that in there. Yeah. But I just thought it came off like a little over the top, I thought.
Fake, yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's helpful too.
And it totally is about conflict styles also, right? I think that was part of our intention in writing this second follow-up script was, or actually this was the third one we wrote, right? I think
No, this was
did we write it in order?
This was the third, actually.
Yeah, it was like the third one. It's interesting how that played out when we were writing it. But anyways, I think we were trying to illustrate how much power one person can also have, even if someone comes at you in the same way, right? Like Wemi did come at me the exact same way as soon as I walked through the door. But whether I'm conflict avoidant and just like really don't want to argue, or if I'm making a genuine apology, either way, that can really serve a de-escalating purpose. And maybe, like we said, we'll circle back to this, right? And there is more of a conversation to be had here. I definitely broke her trust, and it might take time for her to think my apology is genuine too, right? If I actually change my behavior and keep her in the loop next time.
I just want to add one thing I really liked about Sophia's response. is, she didn't want to, let's resolve it right now. Let's just do it right now. I mean, there was at least the way I perceived it, she was aware that Wemmy was really upset. And frankly, when someone's really upset is not necessarily the time to come to a, kumbaya moment or rational, now we can set the rules. I thought that was a very good example of, well, when Sophia's, well, when you want to talk about this, that's a good idea. We can talk about it. And I just thought that was a good aspect, a positive aspect of her reaction.
Yeah, and that's a very constructive way of doing it, because you're not going to get anywhere with someone who's angry to try to work it through.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would imagine that when he's thinking back, I don't think we even thought about the idea of why I was rejecting your apology. But one thing I could think of is I could have thought it was insincere and that you were patronizing me, by just jumping in to say, oh, okay, yeah, I see this. And I'm like, oh, really? Now you see it. And something like that. So
I think
it
also
conflicts style too.
I think also sometimes we like to hold on to our anger. And that can be a very difficult thing to deal with.
Mhm.
Well, I can't resist, but I also saw curiosity on Sophia's part, and I saw empathy on Sophia's part.
Mhm.
So, those were two aspects that I, had called out. But anyway, keep going.
All right, next scene.
So this is the good version. Wemmy, this is Wemmy, knocks on Sophia's door. Hi, Sophia. Did you just get back home?
Hey, Wemmy, yes, I just went out for some coffee and to do some grocery shopping. What's up?
I want to talk to you about the party last night with your friends. I would like to thank you for keeping the windows closed after I had that allergy attack.
No problem. I am sorry again for opening it last week. Are you feeling better?
Oh yeah, I am. Thank you for asking. The party was really loud and late. I couldn't get much sleep. You did not communicate with me that you would be having friends over, or much less a party. And then leaving all the mess behind, it really just made me uncomfortable overall, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, thanks for being honest, and that does make sense. It was a really spontaneous gathering, and we didn't plan for it to be so rowdy. Things did get out of hand, and I was actually annoyed too that my friends left without helping clean up. I did plan to clean it up today, but I needed to get some coffee first because I am so tired.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, I get that. I do like a clean space and tranquil ambience. I'm not opposed to having a party at the house once in a while. I would just like to know so I can either join you if you invite me or plan to have a movie night in my room or buy earplugs or something, you know?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I did think about inviting you. I just wasn't sure if you were feeling better. I definitely should have reached out earlier to communicate, and I agree. It's nice to keep the place tidy since we share this space. Is there anything else that you want me to know about us living together?
Oh, thank you. And I hope I didn't come off like I'm reprimanding you. I think we should work on creating some house rules together. And if you're comfortable sharing, you can share some boundaries and requests you have as well. Okay.
I love that idea. I'm gonna clean this mess up and then make some lunch. Would you like some? We can talk about living agreements and eat some food together.
Yum. Lunch sounds like a great idea. Thank you. And I can help clean as well so you can go faster.
And
scene. This was our
scenario.
favorite. I mean, just full disclosure, Sophia is we're best friends. So this was like our favorite part because we're like, oh my God, I would do that first part.
We would hope that, yeah, we could apply our master's degree and maybe work it out this way if we were actual roommates.
So what did you guys think?
That was really good. I mean, that was a really nice resolution.
Right.
It was it was non-threatening. It was empathetic on both of your parts. I think you did a good job of discussing it. She waited to talk to you about it instead of attacking you the minute you walked in the door, which is something I tend to do to people. And so I can relate to that. And I think it was a very good resolution.
And I think the open-ended question was good too. That opened up more because it produced a nice response from Wemi about anything that Sophia might want to add to the mix.
Absolutely.
She's getting lunch.
There you go.
Exactly.
A little restitution moment.
I know.
And yeah, like I said, this was actually the second one that we created. And so I think we went from like worst case scenario, and that felt really weird. I was best friends trying to develop that script. And so we went to best case scenario afterwards. And then we kind of came up with maybe what's more realistic, different kind of like not all the way perfect scenario, but some compromise and middle ground still.
Yeah. Like an alternative, and just it was more speaking to how you as an individual can have autonomy over like your reaction. And that's just one way it could have gone. There's another, it could have been me being all nice about it and you being like, whatever, I don't care. But yeah, that's it.
I think it's very interesting that you went from 1 to 3, almost as if you felt your real friendship was threatened by 1. I mean, it felt so uncomfortable to you that you had to make up immediately, even though it was all made up anyway. I think that's very interesting and probably says something about this whole exercise. I'm not sure what, but I think it's very interesting.
Wow. Thank you for that insight. That's helpful.
I think that is a very interesting point. And I relate to it as a dancer too. I've thought a lot about like performance art, and role playing is really like, it's acting, right? It's another kind of performance art. And that leaves impressions on our body, to actually even be speaking out loud certain things or performing different behaviors. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we felt a little on edge and kind of tense. I don't think something like that could threaten our friendship, actually, but we probably did want to balance it out, soothe the nervous system a little bit.
Yeah, Sophia she was like, this feels awful. Like all through the first one. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to disagree. I do think you showed some examples of, excuse me, some of the responses that I had, kind of talked about in the beginning, like the negativity bias, like Wemi, well, you're just doing this because I'm Black, or, you think I'm messy, kind of the automatic snap judgment, when Wemi started talking, it was like, bada, 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 it's just like everything all came in, all the shoulds and oughts, and, and I think there was this sense of, there's something wrong, it's your fault, it's not mine. And, when there's a messy room, this might not be the best example, but, it's because you're lazy, you don't want to clean up. Me, I had to do homework, that kind of thing. So I think, explicitly or implicitly, I think, you acted out some of those biases, those cognitive biases that we talked about.
Yeah. And just so you know, Trish, Sophia reminded me about that piece of your topic today. So we added that for that reason too.
Yeah, we have that in mind. I'm glad you pointed that out, because I was even happy to find more connections when you were presenting on it today. Like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. And when we get into emotion brain versus, thinking, communicating brain.
Right. right? There's a difference about a feeling brain that's feeling empathy and a feeling brain that's, you know, blocking everything out. So yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, we've been going for about 50 minutes here. If anyone has any final questions, feel free to do so. Other than that, I really want to thank Sophia and Wemi for coming and joining us and giving such a great presentation. I really feel, you know, we have something to chew on and think about on how to apply in our real lives. And so I thank you both. We wish you the very best in your careers. And of course, to the rest of us here, thank you so very much for coming. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.